Access granted. Welcome to the Bunker Codes podcast. Nothing here is medical, dental, vision, legal, or financial advice. We're all on the same team, wishing for peaceful resolution where everyone can get along and be left alone. Enjoy your stay. Bye.
Alright, this is going to be a test, a new test podcast that I'm doing. So if this works, great. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I was trying to think of better ways of recording. Better ways of doing my podcast. So I'm cleaning the garage. There's going to be background noise. I noticed quite a while ago when I'm alone that it helps me a lot to pretend like I'm talking to somebody, which I guess sounds crazy, but maybe in the world, the way things are now, maybe it's not so crazy anymore if you actually are talking to somebody, because then it's like, ha ha, in your face, I'm actually talking to somebody. Well, I'll eventually be talking to somebody. Well, I mean, unless there's, spies listening or something, then I'm talking to them. But it feels a lot like writing, right? Like, when I'm writing my books, I'm writing to future people, right? And so, like, right now, I'm like talking to future people, and I guess, I don't know, I'm sure there's some kind of psychoses that people have been what's it called, diagnosed with, but I don't know. It helps me. Maybe it's just because I don't feel productive enough if I'm only doing like one thing at a time. I have no idea. I don't know what it is that causes me to feel like I need to be like multitasking. I think it's the only thing that keeps my brain occupied, especially like when I'm alone is when I feel like my brain needs to be the most occupied. So usually I keep these videos private, but I'm probably going to make this one public just to see what people think. So part of the reason why there's no video, obviously, is because I have to keep my identity a secret so I don't get doxxed and hunted down. And for the longest time, that was because people could, because of identity politics. But now that I'm a homesteader, I'm not worried about identity politics anymore. I could still get doxxed and lose my job, presumably. But, now I have to worry about, preps, OPSEC stuff, which I don't know if that's better or worse. When you're living in a house with a bunch of people, it would be suicide if people tried to do a home invasion. When you're out in the boonies, you're not as worried about people personally coming all the way out in the middle of nowhere to sign their own death warrant. Even though, yeah, they can choose the place and the time and everything, but you're more worried about, to be honest, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're worried more about people who don't know who you are. Um, that sounds it's kind of a weird way to put it. Sorry, there's a lot of dust in here, so I'm sniffly. I apologize. I'm more worried out here about people who don't know who I am. Whereas in the city, I was worried more about people who did know who I am. It's kind of a weird. There's a lot of psychology. And yeah, you can get stuck in your own head. And also, it's like, well, you live in the middle of nowhere. You're probably fine. But I always remind myself, like, it's always in the middle of nowhere where they're like, nothing happens here. Yeah, nothing happens here. But I think soon these small towns are going to be tested more and more and more. And the other week I was in a small town, and they never replaced their front doors. It's all plywood. And from someone just driving directly through into the corner store, they're stolen cars, so it's all untraceable. But they defunded the police in that town, and police, love them or hate them. In small towns, there's only a couple of them, so you got to support them anyway. But this small town's police force was the most well-funded police force for its size that I've ever seen. So my phone just went to sleep. Okay, cool. I think it's still working. Smallest police force I'd ever seen, with I don't know, 10 or 15 cops, and they had their own armored vehicle. Like, because it was a super rich town with insanely high taxes, and they had, let's just say they had a lot of tax revenue, and the police, use it or lose it, was like and like all the tactical training that they could possibly take. And then one day they just defunded it all, which is like whatever, whichever side of the fence you're on is whatever. But the point is like they defunded the police, and then all of a sudden they've got cars driving through their only little corner. They don't have a grocery store there. They only have a corner store, and people drove a car right through it. So, and you have to go off the main road. Kind of. It's not an accident, like, because it's like a gas station, And so my point is, I think that the small towns are gonna be tested more and more and more. And I know I've said in the past that I think the small towns are vastly underprepared, and they really are. But they're gonna be tested soon. See if they're ready or not. It's already happening. But I would say that the towns that still have cops, the small towns that still have cops, are very, very, very much in support of them. And I think vice versa. I think they're supporting the people, and I think the people are supporting them in the small towns. But I still stand by what I've said in earlier podcasts, which is people in the more farther out suburban and rural areas need to calm down and not do anything stupid. But I think that if anything bad's going to happen, I still think it's going to happen because of stuff that happens in the cities. Because I just think, statistically speaking, so many things happen in the cities, and they're just such a powder keg that I think whatever's going to happen is going to happen in the cities. Or it's going to pop off, I'll say. It'll pop off in the cities. And then bleed out everywhere else. It's just kind of like, unfortunately, I think how it's going to play out. I don't want it to be that way. I want everyone to just calm down and leave each other alone. But unfortunately, I think the looting and the flash mobs and stuff, I think it's all still happening. Maybe not quite as bad as before, but I think it's still happening. I just think it's really underreported. And I think I said this in my last one, and I know it seems like I just did my last one, but like I said, I'm out here just walking around working on stuff. And it helps for me to have someone to talk to. How cool I need this. And I think they're going to try to make everyone go back to work. And I think I'm already forgetting what I said on my last one, but since I've left the city, somebody drove near where I used to live. I guess this kind of doxes the shit out of me, but yeah, I don't know. Lots and lots of vehicles driving through houses and killing people. And I think the street racers are super emboldened. And put that there. The cops are just on a massive stand down. And I don't even know what to say or do about it anymore. Like, all I know is they're going to try to make us go back to work. And I think I was telling my mom, like, I think they've got one bad decision, one stupid decision left in them. And I think it's to try to make everybody come back to work one last time. And like I've said, I think I probably called that a couple times. I was just wishing so much that they weren't, but I think they're going to make one last bad decision, and they're going to try to do it again. But I think if you want to use the metaphor of them putting their hand on a hot burner, I think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna try to go hard. I think they're gonna very gently, cautiously approach this, because everybody I've talked to in the private and public sector is hemorrhaging employees right now. And I cannot wrap my head around the unemployment numbers. Like, I look at the numbers every day, not to stress out, but just to try to make sense of it. And they're like, people quitting has finally slowed down. And it's like, why people who are hiring for like very, very good jobs right now, very, very good jobs that in 2013, 2014, I would have gone bananas for these jobs. Like, why are these jobs vacant? And you might say, well, they just don't pay enough, but like that doesn't make sense, because if people need jobs right now, like unemployment's not zero, you know. So all I can think of is like, it's a geographical thing where people must not be living near the jobs. But that doesn't make sense, because like even places in the city, like you'd think they would be able to get people no problem. It doesn't make any sense. Like really good, sit down office jobs. And yeah, sure, someone probably needs to be in the office for it, but it's the city. There's a million people in the office. So that doesn't make any sense. Or there's a million people in the city, gotta need jobs, right? I mean, if you're working in a cash register somewhere, you could probably also work dispatch. You can work a phone, and there's really good jobs where you're sitting there on the phone, chilling, and you're helping people. You're getting really good blue collar work done. They need people on phones too, because they've got to work. Their time is valuable. So why are they having a hard time filling dispatch jobs? Really decent, like high paying. Like, why can't they find welders? Like, you can learn to be a welder. They need welders. I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on with the economy right now. All I can say, like, maybe people are just looking for the wrong jobs. Like, all the HR people that are recruiters that are getting laid off, they're just like, they just won't. Will they just like not look for other work? Like, there's so much work out there, You don't have to go work at a fast food restaurant. And yeah, like, you're not going to be rich, but you should be able to pay a couple bills if you're in the city. You'll be able to pay some decent bills for sure. All right, this is part 2. Hopefully this is working. I don't know when this thing cuts off, so I don't know what to do with this box. I've been waiting to get at this box for a long time, but I don't know what's in it. It might just be full of styrofoam. I don't know. I don't know about the job thing. I can't make heads or tails of it. But to loop it all around, like, what the hell was the point? I don't think laying people off right now is a good idea. I think, or just retention. I don't think this must be full of styrofoam just for packaging stuff. That's cool. I don't think relying on retention, or I don't think relying on hiring to supplement retention, aka bad decisions, is a good idea right now. I think you could fill it. I think you could like fill a position if you wanted, if it pays enough. If you're willing to pay enough, you can fill any position. If you're willing to pay enough, it might hurt. It might hurt to pay that, but like you can fill a position. But there's still no guarantees that person's going to be able to do the job, or that anyone's going to have time to train them, or that they're not a big piece of shit. And so you might just be looking at, well, we might just lose this position. And that's why I call it like bad decision making. You know, basically the question is, are you willing to just live with the possibility that you might not be able to fill that position again? And if they're in the business of making bad decisions, you know, they're still gonna burn everybody else out. And you know, they say they care about burnout, but I don't see it, because they're willing to put policies before people. And I know what it is I think this is their last hurrah to try to bring life back into the city. But man, a gal the other night, and she was like a highly paid doctor gal, she got knocked out with like a metal bottle out of nowhere by a psychopath. And the person she was with did absolutely nothing about it. And you've got to ask yourself, like, people go, that's the exception. Maybe. But, you know, tell that to the gal and her dog that got, you know, a car rammed through their house. You know, tell that to the gal who got smashed in the face with a metal bottle for no reason. She was just walking down the street. And they go, it's the exception. It's the exception. Like, how many times does it have to happen before it's not the exception anymore? Before it's the rule? Before the carjackings, like the drive-bys, you know, the fentanyl. They had 2 huge fentanyl busts. Huge. The biggest fentanyl busts they've ever had. And fentanyl prices are going down. And you might say, oh, it's good that fentanyl prices are going down. That means the demand, you know, demand is going down. So they have to lower fentanyl prices, or whatever, mental gymnastics. No, fentanyl prices are going down because they have so much of it that it's not worth anything. Like, if it was valuable, prices would be going up, but it's so dirt cheap. And it's because it's like dirt cheap to make, and it's because they have so much of it. They have so much of it that it's not worth anything. But you might go, well, that's good. That means the value's going out of it. It's like, no, the demand is still there. Like, the demand is there. The price is down, the demand is there. I don't know. It's kind of that weird sort of like backwards mentality. Like, just because something's cheap doesn't mean that there isn't a high demand for it, or that it doesn't still have like an intrinsic value or an impact associated with it. It can be cheap and still, like, hell, ammo's cheap. You know, fentanyl is more expensive than ammo. So by that logic, like, is ammo like of a less intrinsic value because it's like less expensive than ammo? Like, what happens when fentanyl, because it's still available, it's still readily available. What happens when fentanyl is cheaper than 22 ammo? Unless you can convince everybody to stop using it somehow. It being cheap just means it's more readily available and there will just be more of it everywhere. Just like ammo. And I guess you could maybe say that's a weird false equivalency and that there would never be like a run on fentanyl. And like, maybe you're right, I don't know. Eventually, and you might say eventually they'll run out of fentanyl users. I've heard that thrown around a lot because people think they're funny. I don't think so, because I think there's, ouch, I think there's more people being hooked on it every day. And like Alaska was just talking about shipping people down to Portland. Well, if Alaska ships people down to Portland and those people aren't hooked on fentanyl, when they move down to Portlandia from Alaska, they're going to be hooked on fentanyl really quick. Really quick, you know? And then so what? So does fentanyl prices go up? Like, does that make you happy? Fentanyl prices go back up? That doesn't make any sense. It's gonna be so damn cheap. I don't know. It just means people are going to do more of it. Like, if ammo's cheaper, people just go to the range more. Or they just buy more. I'm not suggesting that homeless people hoard fentanyl. But, I don't know. It's like water. If water is cheap, people just use more of it. But I don't know. Maybe there's critical mass when it comes to how much fentanyl a homeless person can do. Or maybe if you do give them more fentanyl, maybe they take more fentanyl and wipe themselves out faster. I have no idea. But all I know is like, downtown is going to be more dangerous with fentanyl being cheaper because homeless people will be able to get it, I don't know, by panhandling even less. Or they'll be able to have like more dealers because there'll be more of it. I don't know. If it's cheap, that must mean there's just tons of it. Not that the demand is low. Or if the demand is low, that's completely an arbitrary point in time. I don't know. Leave a comment down below if you think if the price of fentanyl is a false equivalency. I mean, like, what if alcohol was like almost free? Like, do you think that means that like we beat alcoholism? Although that's kind of a weird equivalency because you can use alcohol for other things. Like for cleaning, solvents and stuff. Or you can use it to cook with, and you can use it to run a stove. I don't know. Don't do that. But I don't know. I think what's going to happen is more people are going to get shipped to the big cities. Oh, and the homelessness is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Because there's going to be 10 people living in every house, and I don't know. I think AI is going to replace more and more people. Or work is just going to realize that they just don't need as many employees as they thought they did. I'm going to move a dresser real quick. So, I don't know. Blankets. I hope that this is the last time they try to do something stupid, though. I hope that they get it through their heads that A, we're important, and B, a lot of us, it doesn't matter where we live. But maybe some people like living where they live, and they want to accept that risk, and that's fine. But I don't think that means that everybody else. I don't think that means. Sorry, moving a dresser. I don't think that means that they get to force the risk on everybody else. If that makes sense. Like, I know we don't have kids, but raising kids in the city would just be like my worst nightmare. Anyone I loved being in the city would be my worst nightmare. So I think I'm kind of moving this around, and I'm not really getting much value from moving this around. I don't know. That could also mean that there's going to be another mass exodus once the cities get worse. There's going to be another mass exodus into the rural areas, which could throw the politics into a blender again. Which reminds me, I need to register the vote. Man, I'm so behind on things I need to do. Last week went to shit. I took some time off and I didn't get anything done. Spinning my wheels, but gotta remember to vote. I don't know if it matters or not, but it seems like the right thing to do. Even if it is kind of just pretend theatrics. I don't know. My thoughts are really all over the place about this. I just know that I am so glad I'm not in the city. I seriously do feel a million times better, anxiety-wise. Panic attacks and stuff. Like, I just feel just a million times. It's still stressful. Like, I have stresses out here and stuff, and I'm still jittery. But I tell you what, it's just like so much calmer and quieter, and just it's just so nice. Just being able to like not have to like feel like I'm patrolling a subdivision. Because like the last two places I lived, it's like, okay, I'm now partially responsible for keeping this subdivision safe. And if everybody thought like that, we could have a safe subdivision, but instead it's like there's 10% of us that seem to give a shit about the subdivision being safe. And the rest are Karens and a lefty-loos, or just like completely oblivious, or they're rhinos that are just rhinos. So it's just insane to me. The whole thing's insane. I'm so disappointed But not surprised that they want to make everybody come back one last time. The reason why I think it'll be the last time is not that they don't want to try again, because I know if it was up to them, they would try forever. The reason why I think this is the last time is because all the leases to those buildings will be coming up and nobody will have come back. And they'll just either keep sitting on those leases or China will come in and buy them all. So, and then that'll be that. They won't need to pretend. They won't need to pretend to try to, need people in the office anymore, because they'll just give up. And so, there's two different things I'm thinking of at the same time. First of all, I don't care if they sell the buildings to China. It's inevitable at this point. But there's this one building, multi-million dollar building, and it was being used as a flop house with just the most disgusting stuff you could imagine. Multi-million dollar building, just destroyed. And the gal that's trying to sell the place was doing a walkthrough, and there's just drugs and needles, and God, was disgusting. And she's like, it hasn't been entirely cleaned out because there's locked doors that nobody can get into that they haven't opened. And it's just like, oh man, imagine buying a multi-million dollar commercial building and just opening doors, and man, you could find bodies, the worst things imaginable, because you don't know what's going on in those places. There was this thing I saw in New York where they rent commercial buildings and they turn them into brothels, and the landlord was taking video of this brothel, and there's people doing adult stuff in the brothel as she's recording. She's the landlord, and she could not evict them from her property, and she couldn't get the cops to come, and they're running a brothel. Now, I'm not saying whether prostitution should be legal or illegal, and women need to be safe no matter what from predators. But if a landlord says they don't want to have a brothel on their property, it's their property, and they should be able to say that they don't want a brothel. And I guess there's at least three or four landlords trying to evict brothels right now, something like that. Yeah, there's video of it online. It's as horrible as you can imagine. They have little sort of bed sheet nooks, like a hospital that's got everybody, or like a war hospital, except it's a brothel. Just imagine how many people are getting trafficked through those, I mean, unless you just go there and, rent your little nook for the day. I'm sure it's not like that. I'm sure people are getting trafficked through there, and, who knows what's going on in those places. And hotel, I mean, the same thing happens at hotels. But this isn't a commercial level, the amount of little curtained away little curtained away spaces that they had. And that's just the one. I saw a couple screenshots and I closed it. This is what's going on in the cities. And it's been going on for a long time. Trafficking through the big cities has been going on for a long time. And I mean, not every pimp or madam, is a violent criminally insane psychopath. But some of them are, and I think, I don't know what I think. I don't know. I think the cities are going to fall. I think they're falling. There's just still the kind of veneer facade still, and they're trying. Oh yeah, and so yeah, they're trying this one last hurrah, trying to make everybody come in one last time. But I think what they're gonna have to do is they're gonna have to consolidate buildings. They're gonna have to consolidate people in buildings to try to keep them safe, and it's gonna be like fucking Judge Dredd, where you've got everybody kind of shuttled into one building, and the rest of the city's gonna be like a wasteland. So anyway, I know I know my topics aren't very fun, but I think it's important, there are not enough people talking about this kind of macro, I don't know what to call this, just this. The more I talk about it, the more the pieces kind of come together, the more I feel like I can more accurately predict what's going to happen. The closer I can get, the more I can try to help people, and the better that my writing gets to, if my writing is kind of has some predictive elements. I mean, if I can save even one person, even if it's out of jealousy, even if somebody else does something out of jealousy, but it ends up saving them, yeah, they don't have to admit it, but I just want to save people. I just want people to get out of the damn cities. I don't think anybody should ever have to go back. I don't think there's any reason to be in the cities. But that's what they want. They want those 15-minute cities, and they want to force everybody back in. They want to reinvigorate the town, and they want to either burn us out or run trains into us, or flood us, turn off our printers, But then they want us to pay all the damn taxes, and they still want us to feed everybody. I mean, make up your damn minds. I had a whole kind of 2 episodes where I was talking about, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But then when it comes to actually, getting people in rural areas or poor areas, getting their opinions and hiring them, they don't do it. And now what are they trying to do? They try to force everybody into the city. And it's like, Oh, is that your diversity, equity, and inclusion? How is a poor person, regardless of their gender or ethnicity, how are they supposed to afford to live in the city so they can work at your company? Tell me that. Tell me how they're supposed to get out of poverty and move in the city so they can meet your diversity requirement, unless you expect them to be homeless. I know I've like beat that topic to death, but it just absolutely blows my mind. The the mental gymnastics that they go through, where they're literally making everybody come back to the city, but they have diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, they gotta hire the other ethnicities. You know, get the other ethnicities nice jobs, get the poor communities nice jobs, which I'm all for. But how are you going to do that if you're forcing them back in the office? If they can't afford to live in the city, and you're not going to pay them enough because of greed deflation, like what's his name? Dang it, I'm not by my computer, but this YouTuber, really good YouTuber, and he's talking about greedflation. You know, people's pay rates are not going up, except the price of everything's going up. And yet the Fed keeps saying, uh-oh, people are making too much money, people are making too much money. It's like, yeah, but we're not really raising anyone out of poverty. You know? We're not raising people out of poverty. We're not. So the underprivileged communities, the vulnerable communities, aren't going to be able to work in the cities because they're not going to be able to afford it. So, and people on LinkedIn that are far lefty-loos have all brought up this point too. And that's the thing. I've said this before. That's why they're not going to win. The corptocracy, or whoever it is that's calling the shots, the cabal. The cabal is not going to win because both sides agree that forcing everybody back into the cities isn't. Yeah, people want shops. People that live in the cities want their shops back. Yeah, totally. But they voted. They defunded the police, and now there's no law and order. Who's going to defend their shops? If, defending your shop is racist because it's just property. It's just property, man. It's the same thing with that gal that got hit in the face. Does someone deserve to lose their life? From an assault? Does an assault mean you get to murder them? It's like, no. But if that consequence doesn't exist, then you're just going to have people getting assaulted all the time because there's no consequences. Their only consequence is that they might get assaulted back. So, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to wrap all this up. But I don't think they're going to win. I think that the diversity, equity, and inclusion crowd is in lock and step with the liberty-minded crowd, and I don't think the cabal's going to win. And and I think this is going to be their last hurrah. So, it's telling that the left and the right, shit, that's cracking the glass. Damn it. I think it's telling that politicians on the left and the right want people to go back in the office arbitrarily, and I think that's all you need to know about proof that there is a uniparty and they don't care about you, and there's a lot of rhinos, and if you're in a town and you want people to, or if you're in a city, sorry, not a town, the towns are fine. Like, I go into town and there's people in town. If you're in a city and you want people to come back to the city, you have to make the city better. You can't forcing people into a city doesn't make a city better. You might say, oh, but it brings in money and stuff. No, that's what I was trying to say all along. Like, the money's there. The money's there. They just don't want to spend it. They want to hoard it. These companies that say they're broken, that they need people to come back to the city, are reaping record profits because they're jacking the prices up on everything in the name of inflation, but they're not paying anybody more, even though the Fed says everybody's pay rates going up. Honestly, it's not that much. So, oh, cool. I've been looking all over this box. Yes. So, it is getting late. It's almost 9 o'clock. But I already feel a lot better. I was doing this camping and sharing this stuff private, but I think this is going to work. So, I hope the background noise hasn't been too bad. I hope my audio quality is good. This is going to help me kind of keep my mental health doing good, which I'm doing fine. I'm fine. Okay. But I mean, real talk for a second. Like, nobody's doing fine right now. So look out for each other, and I really appreciate everybody hanging in there, sticking with me. I know I repeat a lot of the same stuff, but a lot of people don't listen to every podcast. And a lot of this, me repeating myself, is me just figuring everything out and putting the pieces together. And it's really like, my thoughts are really like three-dimensional, but I can only like explain things linear, unfortunately. Right, Mr. Horse? So, the horse has been swishing his tail, or her. She's been swishing her tail all day. And I don't know if horses swishing their tails mean they're happy or sad or nervous, or their butt's tickling. But the horse has been swishing her tail all day ever since she got moved to this pasture. So, oh, the horse is laying down. Oh, the horse is rolling around like a dog. Oh, the horse is rolling in something. All right, you guys. I will talk to you all later. Bye. Oh, buy my books and check out my coffee page. It really helps me out. All my coffee folks, you have no idea how much I appreciate you. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.
You've been listening to the Bunker Codes podcast. I hope you found our time valuable. Please exit safely and conduct yourself responsibly. Until we talk again, have a nice day.